but there is one solution that trumps them all. Native mouse and keyboard.
Yo, didn't I just
support.
say that? Didn't I just say that? Dreamcast did it, dude. All right. Anyway, this is his name is Skeleblood, and the title of the video is "Why Did Quake and Other Arena Shooters Die?" And I was like, I'll react to this. Why not?
The year 1996 saw the release of the game Quake, one of the greatest FPS games ever to be released. Quake was mostly known for its fast-paced, movement-based mechanics, and its vertical and complex map design. This became the standard for what would become the arena FPS genre. Things would change when another genre-defining game, Counter-Strike, would release in 2000. Slower-paced, team-based gameplay featuring an economy and loadouts, this game was one of the best tactical shooters of its time. As time went on, tactical shooters continued to grow and are, as of now, some of the most popular shooters. Meanwhile, arena shooters, and more specifically Quake, began to dwindle and become far more obscure. Quake and other arena FPS games became the fighting games of the FPS genre. But why? Why did this happen meanwhile tactical shooters saw great success? Why did the arena FPS genre die, and what impact did it leave on future game titles? Today, I want to take a look at the fall of the once popular
Skill
Quake
ceiling is
franchise
high as shit.
and the genre it pioneered. The first reason I believe this downfall came about is, well, simply put, arena FPS games are really hard.
Yeah, skill ceiling is. I know this song. It's the oh my god, it's Sigil music. It's the second stage in Sigil. The MIDI music instead of the Buckethead music. I actually like this song a lot. It reminds me of a System Shock song, almost.
Mechanically difficult game. The game is too hard for me.
It's a good song.
Watch this, Lise. You can actually pinpoint the second when his heart rips in half. And now.
Now, what exactly makes them hard? Well, for starters, they tend to be more aim-centric. Quake is a great example of this. Quake has lots of different weapons, but for the sake of simplicity, we're just going to go over the main three. These are...
I'm gonna, no? So... I don't know, I'll let him finish, obviously. That's not why it's hard. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what he means exactly, but Live and Quake 3 aren't hard because of the aiming. It's more because it's more based on like spawn timing, knowing the maps, and like you can get real crazy with weapon timing. Like you have to keep track of all the spawns for armor, mega health, like fucking weapons, quad damage. You're keeping track of all that, and you have to know where it all is. And then there's the movement, which is crazy. Maybe I'm misunderstanding, and I don't want to just like project what he means, but the shit people do to keep track of like spawn timers is crazy. People are doing like calculus and shit. Like, not obviously it's not calculus, but like the amount of effort people put in to track timers is like really crazy. I'm gonna give an example, probably that's not very good, but this is why Quake is hard. You can pick something up. Let's say it's a red armor. You picked up the red armor. I don't remember the timers anymore because I haven't played Quake Live in a while, but let's say it's 45 seconds. You know in 45 seconds that it's gonna respawn. So let's say you see a guy, he goes around the corner and you can't see him, and you see where the red armor used to be, and you know because you're keeping track that the red armor is going to spawn in 10 seconds. So you know in 10 seconds he's going to go for that red armor, and in 10 seconds you can already be like ready to blast a rocket or a rail shot right there to fucking take him out. That's what makes the game hard. And the movement. You can get real crazy. I think when I go, not to toot my own horn, because I'm not like some fucking Quake king, but like I played Quake Live yesterday, actually, late at night, and I was holding my own mostly in free-for-all. I can't play clan arena or anything. And I was doing pretty good, actually, and I noticed I was watching people, and I was like, there's no way this guy can get me, because we're on some shitty map where you have to be able to do decent circle jumps to get the red armor, and I noticed a lot of people couldn't do it. So I was taking riskier like lines to weapons, I was like, oh, it's that guy. He can't fucking touch me. He can't circle jump and bunny hop as good as I can. I'm already going on a crazy tangent. We're like 2 minutes in this 26-minute video. The other thing is, you can be 10% better than somebody else at the game. You'll kill them 30 to like 0. Like the skill difference can be very small, but that small skill difference is huge. Like it looks huge. Also, another thing people don't seem to understand when they're new, at least, is you need to rebind your keys and you need to switch guns. I've saw new players like sticking to like the basic gun and shit. And they're like, oh, I'm telling them like they need to change guns. Like you need to like go get guns. Like, well, I can't hit anyone unless I use this gun. I'm like, well, you're not going to kill anyone with the starting machine gun. So there's a lot of fucking things. I don't think it being aim centric, quote unquote, is what makes it hard though. But like I said, I don't want to project what this guy is actually trying to say, so let's just keep watching the video.
The rocket launcher, lightning gun, and the railgun, which have their own iterations in other arena FPS games as well. These weapons all encompass the different types of aiming, from predicting, tracking.
Yeah, I mean, that stuff's hard.
Even slight differences in elevation can dictate which weapon is more optimal to use in a particular situation. This makes your weapon choice an important factor in—
That's another thing, weapon choice, like knowing what weapon to use. Those are things that make that, and I guess that's what he's saying is what makes the game hard for sure, yeah.
Exciting gunfights. Overwatch is another example of a more aim-centric arena FPS game, although this game barely counts as an arena FPS game. Targets are constantly moving around in Overwatch and vary in size and speed. Overwatch features all 3 of the staple old-school arena FPS weapons, with Pharah's rocket launcher, Widow's sniper, along with other hit-scan characters, and several characters who have weapons that require excellent tracking, from Tracer to Zarya. Now, aim is something present in every FPS game, and is fairly difficult across most of them. But what about more specific things to arena FPS shooters? There's also resource management, one of the more strategic elements of arena FPS.
So he is going to touch on this. I guess I was stupid to assume that. I wasn't saying I did give him the benefit of the doubt. But this is what makes this fucking game hard. And map knowledge and movement. So anyway,
FPS games, and one of the most important as well. We will use Quake for our example here. A typical Quake map features weapons, health pickups, and armor, which usually ranges from about 2 to 3 per map, and power-ups such as the quad damage. For now, we'll just be discussing armor as well as the mega health. In Quake, armor respawns every 25 seconds. This allows players to do what is called cycling, where they go from one armor to the next up until they end up back at the first armor they grabbed, creating a loop where players will engage each other at each armor position, trying to keep control of the map's resources. To add on to this, there's also Mega Health, which has different iterations in how it spawns depending on the game, with Quake 1 having a 90-second respawn time.
Dang.
And then Quake Live having a 35-second respawn time. But usually it's a lot harder to cycle than the rest of the items on the map. This is just for major items though. Weapons and smaller health items are also an important resource to keep track of. If you aren't playing 1v1, then power-ups are also present, adding another important resource to keep track of. Power-ups can change the outcome of a match drastically, giving the player awesome power of either destruction, invincibility, or invisibility. Although invisibility honestly isn't that good. As you can imagine, this is very hard to keep track of and makes the game extremely fast-paced and tense. Quake is a more extreme example of this on-the-map resource item management, as it's present in tons of other arena FPS games as well. Both Overwatch and TF2 feature health packs, which, although are nowhere near as important to keep track of as they are in Quake, can decide the outcome of some fights. This form of on-the-map resource management contrasts with a lot of tactical shooters where resources are typically managed via an economy or limited use equipment. On-the-map resource management also affects player positioning heavily by rewarding good positioning to punish or steal items.
What game is this?
Positioning leads us to our next skill issue present in arena FPS games: movement.
Yeah.
Movement is often cited as the main reason for the decline in the arena FPS genre. Like how wave dashing is a unique tool in Melee that allows for deep player expression,
Bro, circle jump, circle strafing, and bunny hop is like peak fucking FPS to me. Like, it's just so fun. I don't know why people don't like it. There are people who I'm gonna assume are Zoomers. I'm projecting, but whatever. Like, it's so fucking cool. I think it's the coolest shit. I don't know. I really like strafe jumping and bunny hopping. I'm not super good at it. I'm okay. I don't know. I'm just like, whatever. I'm okay. I'm pretty okay at it, right? Like, there's people who are way better than me, but I think it is just fucking the best shit. If you ask me, I always get hate for this, but whatever. I think the downfall of Quake, maybe this is a bad take, but I think it goes as far back as GoldenEye, console shooters. Maybe that's a bad take, but I think that's what led to slowing the genre down, right? Having to make it work on controller, and a really bad controller too at first, but whatever.
Hopping and rocket jumping are mechanical tools that also allow for deep player skill expression. Bunny hopping is basically where a player just jumps up and down consecutively, but it's a lot more deep than that. It has different variations such as classic ADA bunny hopping from Quake 1 and Source, strafe jumps from Quake 3 and Quake Live, and crouch hops from Titanfall and Apex Legends. Rocket jumping is another staple arena FPS movement technique where players fire an explosive at their feet, sending them into the air, giving them great vertical height. Rocket jumping once again originated from Quake, but is also present in loads of other games such as TF2, Overwatch, Ultrakill, Valorant, and even Battlefield, albeit a very unique way.
Valorant has rocket jumps?
Combining these two techniques in Quake leads to the most insane movement ever devised.
Yeah, look how fun this looks, right? Like you're flying around.
In
yeah.
seconds.
Oh, it's the best, dude. Look at this.
As you probably realize, this leads to crazy good positioning as well. Better movement leads to better positioning leads to better resource management, resource management gives you a better chance at winning aim duels, and winning aim duels will win you matches. This creates large skill gaps between players where matches can feel totally one-sided, as these techniques are not easy to perform and take large amounts of practice.
Yes! Hell yeah! Hey, come on, baby! Come on! Yes!
I mean, it's still around, but like I said, for some reason, like, outside of deathmatch, the only, like, populated mode for Quake Live is Clan Arena, and I hate Clan Arena. Freeze Tag is okay, but I don't see it as much. And I suck ass at Capture the Flag, and I never see anyone playing Capture the Flag, so... It's like, nowadays, at least on Quake Live, you're stuck with deathmatch, duels, if you can find someone on your skill level, near it at least, and Clan Arena, and Clan Arena fucking sucks.
Come on! Ah!
What is a mechanical barrier? Let's go back to my example of Melee. In Melee, there's another mechanic in the game called L-canceling. In Melee, when an attack is performed in the air and its attack animation isn't finished before the player hits the ground, the player will be in landing lag.
Isn't it funny? I've noticed this. Isn't it funny how often that unintended mechanics is what pushes a lot of these games competitively and, I think, fun, like their fun factor. Rocket jumping Quake was unintended. Circle strafing into bunny hops was unintended. Whatever this dumb shit in Smash Bros. Melee, I don't know, I don't play Melee. Unintended, but very fun. Even Mischief Makers, like boost canceling probably wasn't intended, but I think they knew about it when they were developing the game, are like, oh, this is cool. Those things, like, even StarCraft has shit like that. StarCraft has a lot of unintended, like Brood War, I mean, it has all this, like, all these, like, unintended mechanics that, like, push the game into this fluke of, like, amazingness, right? That's what makes a lot of games that have high skill ceiling and they're like classic games have these like unintended mechanics that make them really fun.
Couple frames where the player is unable to do anything and is left defenseless. But if the player presses a shield button before landing, the landing lag is shortened by a significant amount. This is an L-cancel. Now you may be asking, why not just make all attacks have shorter landing lag without L-canceling? That would be a good question, I have no clue. There are
I don't know,
trade-offs
that's depth.
to using wave dashing. Meanwhile, with L canceling, you're strictly putting yourself at a disadvantage. It is nothing more than an arbitrary barrier, or a mechanical barrier, if you will.
Could honestly talk about this L canceling thing for a while, so I'm gonna stop here and get back to the main point of
Yeah,
the
who
video.
cares about
There's a
melee?
lack of unique player choice that comes with these arbitrary
back
barriers.
to the good
Meanwhile,
games.
mechanical tools create multiple options for players to choose from. This, of course, doesn't mean that mechanical tools should be crazy difficult either, as the more accessible they are, the more people can enjoy these parts of the game. Quake even addresses this in later installments by introducing auto hop, where you don't have to time your jumps and can instead just hold down the jump key. It made b-hopping more accessible without taking away any of its depth.
I know a lot of Quakers, quote unquote, have like hot opinions about this. I don't think the auto hop is a big deal. Because in fucking Quake Live, at least in Quake Live, if you auto hop, you're handicapping yourself. Because if you do precise jump buffers, you go faster. So like, who cares? That's my, like, I don't know. It's like, I don't fucking auto hop. I do upstairs actually because it's easier. But but most of the time I'm doing precise buffer jumps because it's faster.
Or utility. Although this is a minor change, with Quake and Arena FPS games, they're still overall very mechanically difficult. Now that I have defined both a mechanical tool and barrier, we can talk about the second reason Arena FPS games died. Their developers tried to kill them.
Yeah, probably. Quake fucking... Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. Okay, let's make... This game sucks, by the way. Quake Champions. This game has its fans, but here's what's cool about Quake Champions. It's on some fucking third world fucking game engine, right? And then it fucking... I don't know. Everything about it feels wrong compared to Quake. No fucking servers. So, like... And it takes, since no one plays this piece of shit, it takes like forever to get back into a match instead of just being in a server with a bunch of bros where like, you know, the round ends and you go right back into a fucking game. No, you go back in the queue, you wait for fucking ever because no one plays this piece of shit, right? And it feels like garbage. So there you go.
Now, I'll admit this is a very hyperbolic statement. Of course, the
I don't know if it
developers
is.
of these gays... okay. Of course, the developers of these games didn't want them to fail. However, there is a trend you can see in games featuring more complicated tech, where developers actively try to remove it from their games, despite it being fun and generally nobody complaining about it. It started back in Quake 1, where when the devs saw bunny hopping, they immediately tried to eradicate it from their next installment, Quake 2.
No.
Their attempt was in vain, however.
Don't do
as
that.
This gave birth to strafe
It's
jumping, which
tight.
is essentially a more restrictive and faster.
It's tight, boys. Don't do this. It's tight. Who? Like, I don't know, man. Just learn to bunny hop. It ain't hard. If you got sick movement, listen, I'm gonna tell you. I said this before. Remember when I was playing that mountain biking game? And I said the only thing you need to make a fun game is speed and sick jumps. And guess what? The same thing for fucking Quake. Speed and sick jumps, bro. If you're fucking on that fucking one map or whatever, and you do a sick strafe jump, circle jump across the bridge, a rocket jump, and you're flying around, dude, it's sick. Speed and sick jumps, bro. That's all you need.
Bunny hop. Half-Life 2 Deathmatch is another example where it used to have literally some of the most insane movement tech ever devised in a video game. You see this deathmatch footage on screen. This is insane.
Yes.
This stuff's nuts. But after the Orange Box update, it all vanished. Disappear. Gone. Non-existent. This one's really unfortunate because this game, like, now is just garbage. You load up the servers and they're just, like, empty, and none of them have anything to do with actual deathmatch.
Yeah, for some reason most servers have gravity set to low and headshots are one-hit kills, so the pistol automatically becomes the best weapon in the game. And as you can imagine, it's pretty lame, but you can still manage to hit some clips here and there.
Oh shit! You know what that reminded me of? Like right there, is when you like You shoot the rocket at someone's feet and it bounces them up in the air, and then you pin them with the lightning gun in Quake. Oh, baby.
I highly suggest not playing this. Just don't.
A more modern example of this would be Overwatch's removal of the Genji boost, which wasn't even that game-changing from what I can tell, but despite that, just because it was technically a bug, they got rid of it. Another big L from Blizzard, along with everything else. One thing
Oh, you know what else? Yo, you know what's another game that has unintended mechanic that came like a real big reason why that game was super fun and is completely gone now, and it's a shame unless you play on some like sketchy ass private server that probably installs a fucking Bitcoin miner on your computer, is Guns the Duel. I wish that shit was on Steam, man. K-style, dude. You want to give yourself arthritis like in a couple of hours? Hell yeah, dude. That game is tight.
think devs are absolutely terrified are skill gaps, or a significant difference in skill between players. More specifically, I think
Minutes. Yeah, dude. Yeah. Dude, I used to love doing K-style.
they're afraid of mechanical ones, as these are much more difficult to deal with than strategic ones. Strategic skill gaps would be situations such as counterpicking Genji into Zarya in Overwatch, or pushing an enemy who has a positional and weapon advantage on you.
Strategic skill gaps boil down to players making poor choices or lacking game knowledge.
Mechanical ones, on the other hand, are much harder to overcome as a player.
These encompass things such as
Oh,
movement,
yeah, I'm
combos,
cooming just watching
or
that
aim.
guy traverse
Learning
that
tech can
fucking
take
map.
lots of time, and some might say it's not worth it.
Some will pour hours into their mechanics and only improve marginally.
So when developers see this happening, their first instinct is to get rid of the problem or make it easier to approach, which is fine for the most part.
Garbage ass scrub.
The issue arises when the solution is watering down interesting game mechanics for the sake of the less mechanically skilled, or actively reducing the skill ceiling. Take the auto hop example I gave earlier. Imagine if instead of implementing auto hop, they replaced it with sprinting and jumping no longer gave the player speed increases of any kind. This would solve the problem of b-hopping being a mechanical issue, by replacing it with something that technically does its same job of moving around the map, but with more efficiency and less effort. But that's not all that b-hopping did. B-hopping could be chained with rockets to increase movement speed beyond the b-hop cap, could be used to perform trick jumps, could be used to skillfully dodge rockets and mix up your opponent, and overall has more depth than just sprinting. Versus the implementation of auto hop makes all that cool stuff I just talked about easier, and didn't take away from any of that cool stuff either. It didn't water it down or lower its depth.
Yeah, I don't really
in
have
any
a
way.
problem with auto
And while we're on
hopping
the
in Quake
topic of
Live,
mechanical
at least.
skills, I think one of the largest contributing factors to the death of the arena FPS genre was the coming of the console age. The tech in these
Yeah.
games was already pretty difficult to perform, but bunny
Well,
hopping and
GoldenEye.
doing rocket jumps on console all while trying to aim duel your opponent, yeah, that's not easy, I'll tell you that much. The only games that could be considered arena FPS games back in the day that were okay to play on console were
Halo? Yeah.
GoldenEye, and Time Splitters 2. And even then, these were more watered down compared to their PC counterparts and could barely qualify as arena shooters. Nowadays, there are certainly better options on consoles, such as Splitgate, Fortnite,
Fortnite? I don't know, bro.
Spider-Man with this Spider-Man. Spider-Man.
Doom 2016 and Eternal, Overwatch, and even some of the OGs, such as Quake Remastered. But even with that, these games still play far better on PC, and because of that, people on console often opt to play other games instead. I mean, why play these complex and difficult arena FPS games when you can just load up a game of COD and turn off your brain? More hardcore arena FPS games, on the other hand, such as Quake or Team Fortress, are strictly worse on console and far more realized on PC. Or are they? In a video made by YouTuber SolarLight, he explored the viability of using a controller on TF2, which actually worked quite well, although with some caveats.
okay, hold
One,
on.
playing with traditional
Maybe if you is he using like motion control though, or like I can't see that working at all unless you're playing gyro. I mean, yeah.
controls where the right stick is used for looking around doesn't work well. Can't really perform flicks, movement tech is far more difficult, and without aim assist, it is far harder to aim. But using flick stick plus gyro allows you to
Okay.
play at the same level a mouse and keyboard player would, if not better. Flick stick, as the name suggests, allows you to snap to any horizontal
Oh.
direction you choose, and gyro allows you to precisely aim and track enemies at the
I
same
still
level
wouldn't want
mouse
to play like this.
SolarLight did his video specifically on TF2, but I checked
I
and
could
it's
see it
very
working.
possible to perform quick movement tech using this as well. I won't spoil any more of SolarLight's video, and I highly suggest you check it out. So this is the solution, right? Well, not exactly. For one, developers have to create support for this control style, which is kind of
Bro.
niche at the moment.
Just give people keyboard and mouse support on fucking consoles. I don't know why this is such a problem. Fucking Quake 3 on the Dreamcast has keyboard and mouse support, and you could play it online. And you could rebind every key on your keyboard. I have the fucking game. Just give them the fucking mouse and keyboard. Well. What do we have here? A brand new copy of Quake 3 on the Dreamcast? Ooh. You know what else I have a brand new copy of on the Dreamcast? Fucking Phantasy Star Online. Version 2. It's sealed, boys. Yeah. Anyway, my point, just let them play fucking mouse and keyboard on consoles. What's the problem, right?
Hello, Mr. Game Dev, sir. I'd like to request that you add gyro and flick stick support to your game.
Second, this requires controller players to learn a new and seemingly unconventional control scheme. Another solution is aim assist, but that
I
one
like
is
that little
very contentious.
How
Yakuza.
do I lose that? Because he's on controller! That's why!
But there is one solution that trumps them all. Native mouse and keyboard
Yo, didn't I just
support.
say that? Didn't I just say that? Dreamcast did it, dude. Fucking Dreamcast did it. Why can't they do it now? Why don't they do it?
This one is extremely obvious, and I don't know why more consoles and games allow for this, because it would end this debate so fast. Instead of worrying about having to buy a nice PC to play at top level, you can instead just buy a console and a mouse and keyboard and do the same thing for cheaper. And with crossplay becoming more standard, it doesn't really matter if one plays against keyboard and mouse players because they're already playing against those on PCs anyway. And if for some reason you didn't want to play with others on opposing control schemes, then there are settings that compare you with other players on your same controls.
Yeah, I don't want to play with a bunch of losers with fucking literal aimbot. You know how bad that shit was on Call of Duty, the most recent one? It was ridiculous. I tested it out. I was fucking like locking onto dudes through walls, through flashes, through smokes. Like, dude, what the fuck? Just give them mouse and keyboard. Please. I don't give a shit. Devs don't want to do this because they need to make their game work with a new control scheme in every game, and coding remap controls is a nightmare. Well, they already did it. If they released their game on PC, guess what? They already fucking remapped the controls, and they did it in fucking Quake 3 for the Dreamcast, boys. Bring Sega back, dude. That's what I'm saying. Sega should have never gone away. Sega should have never died. They should... Holy fuck. They're legit as fuck, dude. Although, I mean, not that Sega made the Dreamcast port of Quake 3, but like, come on.
Micro point regarding player choice. This one mainly applies to Quake, but can apply to other games as well. One of the biggest problems with the Quake formula from a gameplay standpoint is its map design in tandem with how the game's loadouts work. This is because you find all of your gear on the map as opposed to picking it before a match starts like a loadout in Call of Duty. Aspect of the game is it creates interesting engagements, gives the game a more strategic aspect, gives it more depth, and overall adds a very unique flow to the game that you really can't find in other FPS titles. However, there is a glaring flaw with this, and that is how it removes player choice from the game, or rather punishes it, especially at a higher level of play.
Well,
That is
sometimes
because it creates a, quote, perfect way to play a map.
Sometimes you gotta
There
play
will
some
come a
bad
point
Sonic games
where players often repeat
and
actions
get
over
the good
and over
stuff,
again
okay?
based upon what map they play, which can get boring. So instead of playing your opponent, you're essentially playing the map. Take, for instance,
Airwalk
Catalyst, the map from
sucks.
Reflex Arena. When you spawn
Hate
here and duel or
Airwalk.
1v1, you essentially have three options. Either A, grab the red armor, then the rocket over here. B, walk up the steps, go through the telly, grab the weapons up top, and then the yellow armor. Or C, go through the telly behind you and try to interrupt your opponent grabbing their items. Now, when you hear this, you think, oh wow, I have tons of unique and varied options and responses to my opponent. But this isn't actually true.
You liar.
This is similar to the
Bitch.
fighting games, as fighting games give you multiple options to respond to an opponent's options, but there's glaring differences between the two. Take a look at this knockdown situation here. I have a multitude of options here, which have different pros and cons that create a sort of rock, paper, scissors situation. Quake, on the other hand, creates the same thing, but rock beats both paper and scissors. The correct answer here is B, as it gives you the most resources as well as routes to react to your opponent's choices. You can also still grab the red armor from here as well, so that's a huge plus. Option A isn't terrible, but puts you in potential combat with your opponent when they have more stacks. Option C basically does the same thing as Option A, but now you only have two of the worst weapons in the game, that being the shotgun and the grenade launcher. If we compared this even to a game like
the
COD,
grenade
we see
launcher.
something entirely different, where maps are something to be tackled based upon player preference as opposed to where the map imposes how a player should play. This is because in COD, you can pick your loadout. If you pick a sniper, you would want to watch these longer lines of sight in the middle of this map, versus if you pick something such as like an SMG, you would probably take this right route and try and go for flanks. But this is only an example of what you can do, and there's tons more things you can do even at a higher level of play. Just a quick disclaimer, because I know people are going to comment this. In no way, shape, or form am I implying that Call of Duty as a competitive game has more depth than Quake. It obviously doesn't. Call of Duty takes monkey dung for brains and is by far the most brain-dead shooter on the market. I'm just making a small point about player choice and map design, which admittedly Call of Duty kind of nails just a tad bit better in the player choice department. That is it. That's all I'm saying. Now, this is not to say that Quake lacks this aspect of player choice, in particular to the map design and whatnot, because it's definitely there. However, due to Quake's design philosophy, your options tend to be very map dependent compared to other games. There's a reason I didn't mention a lot of the other weapons in Quake at the beginning of the video, and that's because a lot of them suck outside of very niche situations, and the sort of meta of the game, if you will, is you have the
rocket launcher, lightning gun, and
rocket launcher, railgun, and lightning gun is your main go-to weapons you use for nearly all of
how
your
does he
engagements.
know?
And
Oh my
if you
god.
don't have them, you would resort to the other weapons as a sort of last-ditch effort. This also means there are only three
Dreamer pre-watch. No, idiot. Called the Holy Trinity.
weapons in the game you can really develop a playstyle around, and so because of that, there's a limited amount of player expression involved when it comes to engagements. Quake Champions has been the only game to really address this by adding
Yeah, and this game
champions with
sucks.
different abilities, which can add more variety to how players move through the map and engage with each other, as well as having a little bit better weapon balance. But I wouldn't really say that's enough. One game that did a better job of working with Quake's framework was TF2, which added a lot more player expression to the game by its loadout system, where there are variants to weapons. A system like this in Quake would be amazing, where players would try to collect different weapons based upon what they picked for their loadouts beforehand. So let's say you had equipped a variant of the plasma gun that turned it into a minigun or something, removing the utility it had for more damage or something. Right? Players
I don't
could
know
then
about
change the
that,
routing
but-
according to what weapons are strongest in their loadouts or how they want to play. You could even do
Yeah,
something
I
like
don't-
this.
I
with
don't think
perks
that's a
too,
great
you
idea.
know,
I mean, like,
mash the
I know this is kind of different, but Quake Live had like a mode, like the default mode, you have loadouts, I think. Even Quake Champions, you can pick whether or not you start with a shitty shotgun or a shitty rifle or something. I think I know he's trying to say something different, but still, I
the
just
two
doesn't.
concepts together of on the map weapon usage and loadouts. This would also do
Doesn't sound
away
good.
with Quake's sort of inherent balance hierarchy, where the main three weapons sit at the top as the very best, and the other weapons are just lesser and more situational. But this is getting into hypothetical territory, and we will likely never see anything like this happen ever, which is a real shame. So to conclude, why did arena FPS games such as Quake die? I think it's due to three main things. One, they are difficult.
Yeah,
Two,
I think that's
their
all it is,
developers either
really.
didn't address these difficulty issues, like in the case of Quake,
the skill
or
ceiling.
overdid it and hurt their games, like in the case of Overwatch. And three, they can lack player choice, although this is a minor point. What's weird is that these issues could be solved, but the player base is almost against it. There is a reason I compared these games to fighting games at the beginning of the video, and that is because they both face similar issues when it comes to perceived difficulty and accessibility. The fighting game community had a different approach, where they wanted more from their developers, which made games like Street Fighter 6 which made fighting games more accessible and fun for everyone, without harming their depth or competitive scenes. The Quake community, on the other hand, justifies the game's lack of accessibility and learning resources, saying, "Oh man, the modern gamer, man, is such a pussy, man. Modern gamers these days, man, they just can't handle the diff."
I mean, they kind of are, though. I don't know, like... I don't know, maybe I don't really have a point.
FPS games, because they're such wussies, they want instant gratification, which just isn't true at all. People just want to have fun and enjoy the games they're playing. I don't think anybody enjoys getting absolutely noob stomped by some 60-year-old dude who's been playing Quake since 1996. It's not fun, and there's no learning that goes on there either. So,
Okay, but is that a problem with, like, I think that's more of the game doesn't have enough players problem, not that the game is not accessible enough problem, right? Because if you're learning, if there's 1 million people playing the game, there's more of a player pool, right? I think that's more of the issue than anything. And I'm not sure what point he was trying to make.
Basically,
accessibility is what he was trying to say, but I don't know. Maybe I don't really have a real thought out opinion on this, but I would say it's more of a player count problem.
Quake should become Street Fighter 6. Thank you, everybody. No, but for real, I love these games. But it makes me sad to see the amount of potential they have that is just going to waste and kind of rotting away because the genre is just not around anymore. It makes me really sad because they're really fun. I honestly think they could be some of the greatest competitive games of all time. Let's say that for some reason, despite me complaining most of this video, you thought arena FPS games looked interesting and you wanted to give them a try. I have a couple suggestions for you. Quake Champions is probably the best game I can recommend for those who are new to the genre. Well,
Ooh. No, this game sucks. Don't even bother.
if you want a more pure experience, then Quake Live is a good one.
Yeah.
I personally played this one probably
like Quake
most out of
Live.
any of the arena FPS games I play, and it's pretty fun. Of course, there is TF2, another free-to-play choice. This game can be both really competitive as well as really casual. This game is just good in general, and if you haven't played it yet, you need to. For those of you on console, there's Overwatch 2. This game honestly
Ew.
barely... Splitgate is another
Is
really
it?
fun free-to-play title featuring portals, which allows for insane traversal. This one is really easy to get into while also having a massive skill ceiling. Highly suggest at least trying this one. If you're on console and you specifically want to play Quake, I suggest playing good old Quake Remaster. Quake 1 definitely has its rough spots.
I do not like this remaster. I don't care what anyone says. I've seen a bunch of people say I'm wrong about this. There's something wrong with the physics. If you play Joe Quake or any other source port of Quake 1, I have a way easier time getting speed, circle strafing, and bunny hopping than I do in the remaster of Quake 1. And people say like, oh, if you set the FPS to 75, if you turn off VSync, if you do this, you do that, it makes it better. But for me personally, it did not seem to work at all. It seems like there's something wrong with the physics in the Kex ports or whatever. I do not like these ports.
Shotgun Farmers is one I mentioned earlier. That is really fun. Simplifies the Quake
Farmers?
formula while also having a fun cartoony art style and being very, very easy to pick up. And
I'll
also
check
there's
that
like
out,
tons
maybe.
of little kids
I've
playing
never heard of
one,
this.
so you can just noob stomp
Oh,
every
hell
match
yeah.
you play. Remember when I referred to arena FPS games as the fighting games of the FPS genre? This game would be considered the anime fighter of the arena FPS genre, Reflex Arena. This game is pure Quake at its
I've
finest.
tried to
being
play
all-
Reflex, but last time I tried it, there was like nobody playing. Like Quake Live had bigger numbers than this game, but maybe I'll have to double check that.
skill, no bullshit kind of experience. I would recommend this game, but it's like 100% dead.
Yeah.
And the only people
Fuck
who play
that,
it are
like-
me and a couple of really sweaty nerds. Xonotic is another one. In
This
the
is
realm
another
of
one.
Anime fighter arena.
This is another one that's like has less numbers than Quake Live, and Quake Live has like 300 players daily.
FPS games that is free to play. This one is very deathmatch focused with regenerating health and the laser controlled rocket from Half-Life 2. This one is way less hardcore as the other games mentioned on here and is mostly just fun.
That's why he's playing bots.
And that leads us to the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry this one took a while. I know I said I was going to upload more over the summer, and then I didn't. Now I got this video out. This was a big project. I spent a lot of time working on this, more than it should have. And expect more video essays like these, potentially, depending on how this one does. But we'll see. Anyways, you guys have a good day. Like and subscribe. It helps me out. And I'll see you guys on the next one.
Okay. Well, it was a cool video. Well, I'm not signed in on this account, but I might have, I don't know. I was kind of drinking Jaeger and watching the video, so maybe some of the parts I misunderstood or whatever. But you know, I wish Quake Live had more players for sure. So anyone who's speaking the good word of Quake is all right in my book, I guess. So that was Skeleblood. I'll link his video again. If you guys want to check it out. I don't, you know, since I'm farming his content. So what'd you think? Sorry for all the weird editor notes, but there were some things I thought I missed my point or stuff I realized later that I wanted to add in. Also, hopefully I didn't sound too dismissive when I was talking about some of his points, as I thought he did make some pretty valid points. But, you know, when you're streaming and you're just, you know, shooting from the hip, you know, might come off the wrong way, or maybe, you know, I didn't put enough thought into it or whatever. And like that one part where he was talking about loadouts, I know he wasn't specifically talking about like Call of Duty loadouts, and he was like referencing like more like Team Fortress 2 kind of thing, at least I think. id Software tried something with loadouts, but maybe not exactly what he was saying, and maybe my point didn't really hit the mark there. But what do you guys think? Do you want arena shooters to make a comeback? Do you want another Quake game? Are you still mad that Fortnite killed Unreal Tournament 2015? Let me know in the comments below. And maybe subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I don't know why I always just look to the side when I'm done saying this stuff.